Is this
Henry,
public record yet?
Streaming. Excellent.
You see it? Okay.
Yeah, I
great.
see it now.
All right, Kristen, I'm gonna make you the host, and then I'm just gonna turn off my camera, but I'll have the volume on so I can hear you guys. If you need me, let me know.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Any public comment? Do we have public?
Guess I'm sort of public, right?
Yes.
I just wanted to let, I sent along a copy of the virtual video tour today to all of you to take a look at. Thanks to Laura for assisting a young college student for producing that this week, and was supposed to be the big reveal fundraiser for the library. But circumstances have changed, obviously, and that is now an online virtual event. So even if you're not going in there to bid, please just go in and take a look. We had a lot of great community sponsors that have stuck with us, even though the event is now online, just to recognize that. So take a look, the tour is great, and it's really with thanks to all of you that this building project continues, and it's on schedule and on track. And I just, big thanks from me and the Board of Trustees and the library. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. So let's do the minutes of the meetings from March 9th and March 23rd, so we can officially approve them. I assume they were distributed.
Got it? Yep.
Any comment, discussion?
I would move that we approve the minutes of those two meetings.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, I believe. Excellent. Like to, item 4, official vote on substantive March 23rd motions. So we'd like to formally vote on those again. I don't know if there's a form of a question or motion we should make, or what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I think mostly we're looking at the invoices. That was the substance, so.
Yeah, anything you guys voted on, you would just have to re-vote on again.
Yeah, one of them was the, that we were gonna purchase the laptops, I believe. The amount was, oh, shoot, it's in those minutes.
$4,550. Is that right?
14,550, I think was the amount. Did they get in the minutes? Henry, remember that was a change to the minutes?
I did put them in the second go round. Should be.
I don't see them in the ones that are posted online, so. But I'd like to, I guess I'd like to move that we approve purchasing 17 laptops, and the amount as budgeted in the FF&E budget was 14,550.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I guess that's a change to the minutes.
Okay.
So was there any other votes we have to retake? Or was that the only one we actually took that was other than adjourning?
We had to redo the invoices. We have to revote because that meeting wasn't technically okay.
So the invoices for that meeting were $22,948.06. And there were invoices to AWE computers, those were those kids' computers, AWE. 2 Collier's invoices, an Eversource invoice, a reimbursement to me for the 2 presentation carts, and $1,200 to Richter and Segan, for a total of $22,948.06. Does that sound right, George?
That sounds right. I think the issue we have though is that didn't get put up on the website. So I don't know legally if we're gonna have to do it again.
That wasn't on
weeks.
this website this time?
Yeah, it was. It was
Was
on
it
the
on there?
agenda. Yeah, there's a link. There's a link on the agenda that shows the March 9th minutes and the March 23rd minutes. So
Okay,
it's
I
listed
think
in
it's,
the minutes, not
the,
as a separate, not as a separate addendum, the way this meetings are.
okay, because we got the invoices. We just got this round of invoices, the latest ones up when you click on that link. We don't have the March 23rd or whatever it is invoices.
It's just a separate linked item. It's number 3 instead of number 5, that's all.
Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. I'll second it then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Moving on to, okay, this let's see. Number 6, changes and change orders.
Can we back up, Graham,
Oh,
and
I'm
do
sorry, we do the new
we-
invoices, the
we
current.
got to do
invoices.
the next round. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Didn't mean to steal your thunder, George.
No, that's all right.
So many invoices and so many motions.
I know.
Item 5, invoices. George, you're up.
So the current invoices are will total $164,836.33 for a number of things that you all saw in your email, I'm sure, and that are online. So I'll make a motion that we approve those subject to discussion.
Is the DRA invoice in that?
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment. I think I mentioned this in an email or parts of it. I'm mighty unhappy with CES, and I think everybody knows that at this point, for a number of reasons. And I want to make sure that we have whatever leverage is necessary should this not come to a happy resolution. And I'm not one that has ever advocated not paying a vendor. I've always paid vendors quickly. I believe it's the right way to do business. But there are so many things about CES that have bothered me, including, Chip, this latest thing where, you know, they compose a memo to address our concerns, but don't circulate it.
Well, that was not CES that didn't circulate it. It was a miscommunication at, I think between Greg Smalley and Ron.
I see.
Yeah, that was not their fault. They sent us the memo. We were in the process of reviewing it when we received Dave Hermanton's memo or letter. And after we read his letter, forgot to circulate it. I thought Greg may have, but that's not his fault. It's my responsibility.
Well, the first time, just so everyone knows, the first time I got that memo was 5:20 p.m. today.
Yeah, then I thought you had received it when it came to us kind of beginning of last week. For some reason, I thought that you and Dave Hermanton had gotten it, and I'm just realizing now that you didn't.
Yeah, it's really a shame. But
I
there are,
referenced it to my email to you a couple days ago.
yeah, there were so many.
And just assumed you had it at that point.
Yeah, and I can understand that, and I have no issue with you, as you well know. We've had so many communications back and forth. I just presumed it was the one from the 25th or the one from from another one that I had, because I certainly had responses from them in the past. But from the beginning, Ron, they moved our ground source heat pump system from Jim Kowalski, who was the engineer that I worked with and Collier's worked with originally with CES. There were some exhaustive meetings and follow-up conversations over the design of this system that, I had a lot of input into, and without ever telling us formally or informally. They moved supervision of the project and finishing up the project down to Florida. I think that's a really big deal. And I think that for me not to know that Jim went away, and therefore a lot of the nuances that he and I went over never were communicated. And I really have a problem with that. I also have a problem with the fact that, you know, the more that comes out about the system, the more frustrated I am. They missed things like individual shut-off valves for each of the heat pumps that had, I guess that was caught in submission, and I'm not sure by who, whether it was Adam or whether it was Dave Hermanton. It was certainly us that caught that big mistake. An even bigger mistake was we have 3 heat pumps, 2 of which are the same size, and the third is smaller. And they had them piped in parallel. So that means that the whichever heat pump has a lower pressure drop will receive more flow. Well, the heat pump that has a lower pressure drop is the smaller one, which means the smaller one, which needs a smaller flow, was getting a larger flow, which started this whole mess in the first place. Because when that thing went up, there's no way that the 2 larger pumps, heat pumps, would get the flow they required, because the smaller one, which didn't want that much flow, was getting the lion's share of the flow. There's just been crappy communication with CES, and a lot of changes that they made, like increasing the natural gas boiler size, a lot of changes that they've made without any consultation or communication to us. We're a building committee, and there's a lot of different skills on this committee. We're a building committee that wants to be involved in these decisions, whether it's Mark because of his expertise, or Graham, or George, you know, or Billy in all those areas, Henry and his. We all want to be involved. And to me,
Laura.
I'm sorry, I'm going crazy. Laura in particular.
You can go now, Laura.
Your point's a good one, Woody. Not only do we have the right to be involved, but we actually have the skill set to make things better.
Absolutely, and I feel like at every juncture they've not sent stuff to me. There's other stuff that was done a few weeks ago, that I was never involved with, that they didn't see either. That was before this memo on the 30th. So, you know, I just want to make sure we have the proper leverage, Graham, in order to move this project forward. And I'm saying this directly in front of Ron, because I think it's not a Ron issue so much as a CES issue, but that Ron's firm has control over. So I just want to put that forward for conversation.
Yeah, so there's 2 issues. One is how much money is left in the, if there is a need for, you know, some action against CES, how much money we have left in their contract, and, you know, and DRA doesn't necessarily have to pay. There'll be a lag between when they pay DRA if they have to come out of coming out of their pocket, potentially.
So it looks like there's about $21,000 left in their contract, $6,570 for the construction administration and $14,600 for closeout.
And I believe there was some money we were also putting in account for some ad services that we had anticipated for them. That's not
Yes.
included in that, right? So that money, that's still in our hands.
Right.
Right.
So, and I think you said that the potential worst case scenario for the pump changes was in the $40,000 range.
That's what I understood. 15, you know, we're 15,000 or so for the pumps, and then you figure double it for the labor. So
Okay.
somewhere 30, 40,000.
Yeah, I would have just as a buffer, you know, towards the 40,000 in case there's any other piping or valves or meters that need to be with that. I don't know that that's the case, but just to advise, you might want to, you know, just had it a little bit.
Mhm.
Well, one thing, Ron, and I appreciate your comment, the change from the circuit setter fixed flow rate controllers to, which is what CES had Advanced put in once they realized they couldn't pipe them in parallel, which again is not our loss. I mean, it's not our problem, shouldn't be our problem, it's their problem. So they should be responsible for the circuit setter. At least that should be on Chip's tally of things they're responsible for. But the problem that I'm having and that I keep mentioning to everyone is that circuit setters aren't the right kinds of valves to have on the earth loop side of the heat pumps. What AirMech wants to see, and I totally agree, and Dave totally agrees, and Frank Waldino totally agrees, is that it should be a modulating valve, which is controlled, the flow is controlled not by some external device, but actually by the heat pump itself. The heat pump it's a very advanced heat pump. It's a good design. It's a good machine. It's capable of controlling the flow through its earth loop coil to optimize refrigerant pressures and efficiency. And that was not in the design. It should have been, but it's not. And I don't know whose responsibility that'll be at the end of the day to pay for, but regardless of who pays for it, that has got to be included in the design. And, you know, it doesn't matter to me who pays for it. It matters to me. It doesn't matter as long as we do it, because the system absolutely positively must have that to be as efficient as it was designed to be. And I couldn't get CES to even talk about that, except once Annette talked about it and just said that she'll be charging us for the design work, not even talking about the valve installation, which of course I have a huge problem with, because it's right in AirMech's literature that this is the way you control, you know, the flow through the earth loop side of the heat pumps. I'm sorry it's technical, and I'm happy to go into detail and really put you to sleep. But those things have to be included, Ron.
So what is it
I'm sorry.
that you're proposing?
Pardon me?
What are you proposing, Woody?
Well, I was proposing initially just that we consider withholding some of DRA's money to give us leverage in case this gets crappy with CES. And CES is apparently willing to do what we want with regard to the modulating valves, but at our cost, not only for the valves and the installation of the valves, but the engineering to put in what they should have put in the first place.
So I'm looking at DRA's invoice right now. There is a line item for additional site soil, water table, and geothermal design. And I don't know how much was payable on this invoice. It doesn't show that way, but
That was all 100% paid off. That was very early in the project.
but we could mark it up and we could say, you know what? We thought they were done, but now we don't agree.
Well, I can't speak to the modulators. That is something I'd seen in the memos that went back and forth and CES's response to Dave Hermanton's. I don't want to speak to that and give the wrong information. I just don't want to muddy the waters any more than they already are, and not being an engineer. We've said all along, and CES has said all along, that we will make this right. You know, if we need to replace the pumps, it will be done. If whatever work needs to be done, we're not going to walk away or leave you, the library, holding the, holding the bag for the, paying for it. If the committee decides that money should be withheld, that's the committee's call.
Ron, have you put CES on notice that they're potentially on the hook for something here? Has there been a formal letter drafted or anything?
I don't believe our studio director Greg Smalley has sent them a formal letter, but we have talked to them repeatedly about their responsibility in this situation. And we've received feedback from them saying that they're aware of it and, they will make good on it.
Well, you probably then saw in Annette's response to Dave Hermanton's email that if the building committee wants modulating valves put in, they would be willing to do the design work on that, but at a cost.
Yeah, I would hesitate to put much in that particular response, because I think that there was some tone in there that was because of the lack of distribution of the March 30th memo. I think that did affect that. So, they put forward March 30th, as far as Annette goes, understands, she sent a memo with some recommendations for additional balancing, for additional things. And she thought we had that. Then several days later, she gets Dave's memo that feels like it completely ignores anything she said. So I think that there's some tension there that was unintended. So, I think that we need to, take some of the tone in that with a grain of salt and know that everything that I've heard and to date and seen in the discussions has not had them backing away from taking care of this.
Okay, I'm fine with that. And I have some comments on the pump scenario as well. But I just wanted to clear up the modulating valve issue to make sure that we are unified in this. AirMech recommends it. They've mentioned it twice in emails to everyone that they've distributed. It's the right way to run the system, regardless of what CES thinks. And that said, you could put those in, it would save 1% efficiency or whatever. It also is a safety factor because the gas pressures are monitored and the valve is adjusted by the unit to keep the flow rate so that the gas pressures never become excessive. So it's something that should be done regardless of any of the rest of the stuff. Going backward for a second, because I never got the memo on the 30th, I never saw one thing that CES has recommended, which is part of the test that I also talked to Frank about or emailed Frank 2 days ago, which in going through all the data, and you can't believe it's way thicker than this, it's just so many pages of data that Mark and the balancer have come up with. We've actually never run a test with the balancers, with the circuit setter valves properly set for each heat pump, and then had all 3 heat pump valves on so that water could flow through them, and seen what the flow rate from the pump was. So I asked Frank whether that was one of the tests, and he said, yeah, and I said, because I don't see a result for that test
I
anyway.
don't think that's been done yet. I don't think there's been any formal
It hasn't
testing
been done
since
yet.
the circuit center was put in. There's been pieces and parts, and that's why, as I mentioned to you earlier today, what we're setting forward is a rebalancing of the whole system. Now that we've got I understand the whole issue, whether it's the circuit centers or not the circuit centers, but when out the circuit centers in, getting the all of the right equipment on site, getting all of the right people on site, and doing it properly from the beginning, making sure that CES is there so that, anything that's tested, they're aware of. And if there's something else they need, they can request it right on the spot rather than 3 days later saying, oh, did you test this? And see what happens. We don't have a full system pressure drop. We don't know what that is across the whole system. That's never been measured. So we need to do this even if the pumps are undersized, to identify what size pumps we need. So there's a lot of that stuff it's kind of been piece here, piece there, piece another, and everybody's been throwing stones. So we want to have a universal meeting within 2 days of that test so that it's fresh. We can make sure everybody understands what their role is, what their responsibility is, what equipment is needed. If there's additional ports that need to be put in, you've got a day to do that. And then we can get everybody there at once together and put this thing to bed.
I'm in agreement with that. I said that in my response letter to Frank. So I'm fine with this because it was never done and has to be done. I'm fine with it.
Yep.
Mark came back to me when I said that to him and said, well, I can't adjust the circuit setters to and then turn everything on. I adjust the circuit setters one heat pump at a time, because if I open up all 3 heat pumps, I don't get the right flow to even get those things done. If that's true, then the pumps are undersized. But until
it's we still have the same problem we had at the very beginning, where the small one is driving everything.
No, that's not true.
If the circuit setters haven't been set properly and measured, I'm just saying let's get through that process. I don't know technically. I'm not going to argue with the technical side of things. As I understand, if you kind of do them one by one, get them set, then maybe it works. And I don't know. I don't know how close to the limits we are.
I understand, but that's not what we did was set them correctly, one by one, but we then never opened up all 3 heat pumps and measured the actual flow at that point. Mark said he didn't bother because the pump wouldn't produce enough. I happen to agree with Frank and everybody else that if you've not run that test, then you can't definitively state anything about the pump size.
Right.
But that is a really simple test to run. I don't have any problem with all the information Annette would like to get, because more is better. But Mark's one comment to me today was, in going through what's happening, he did try that test and it didn't work. We'll see once we get all the instrumentation.
Right.
So if you set the circuit setters to the correct flow for all 3, and then open up the system, turn the pump on, and it flows the right flow rate through each heat pump, I'm fine. As long as the pump isn't at the end of its curve.
Exactly. Right. We need to make sure that we have the flexibility that it's not going to start failing over time as things degrade. I mean, it can't be right at the edge.
As long as that's true, I'm fine with the pumps.
Right.
But even if we get by that, I don't want everybody shaking hands and walking out. We need those modulating valves installed so that the system can operate at its peak efficiency, and with the safety of knowing that the condenser gas pressure is being monitored and the unit is being adjusted accordingly. So I was pushing the pump issue aside for a sec, because I told Frank 3 days ago, I don't think we ever ran that test. So if we never ran that test, despite everybody saying we ran that test, I found no data to show that. So that's kind of where we are.
The entire system head has never been identified.
Right.
Can we vote on the invoices?
Invoices.
Thank you,
I don't
George.
know. What do you think, Graham?
Well, I think it sounds like we have like 40 grand remaining, and DRA knows they won't necessarily pay CES their share of these invoices anyway until they know it's resolved.
Well,
So I think we can safely move forward with the invoices.
okay, then I'm fine.
And is that with
So
the
Graham-
understanding, that the next invoice we are going to withhold if this is not resolved?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, if that's the
I would
ground
re-
rule, then that would be fine.
I would recommend that we send a newsletter or put, maybe these minutes can do it. There's an issue with for the geothermal system, and we're concerned about it, and we may be a design problem. As a placeholder, so we can point back to it, and then people are on notice.
Yeah, I agree.
It sounds like they are in conversation, but I like the idea of a formal statement.
I did ask Doug LaJoy where he lives so I could have the pumps delivered to his house, but so I think he may.
So I'll
So,
second
yeah,
the motion.
yeah. Okay.
George, did you move to approve the invoices?
I think I did. I can't remember.
Well, I'll be
But
happy.
no, I did.
I would be happy to second at this point then. With a
Good.
note that
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Got it. Now moving on to item 6. Changes and change orders. PV update and geothermal changes.
Right. I have a number of things. I don't know, Woody, if you want to go first or go following me to talk about the PV, or I can go first.
It's up to you, Chip.
Why don't I start going through? There's a number of changes that I'm ready to look for action on, and some that I'm just notifying you of. Some of them are under the 20,000, but have broader interest, so thought it was better to do it this way. And then one is a no cost change order that we just have to kind of get through and approve. Why don't I should be able to do it this way.
there you go.
Everybody see change order? It's PCO number 72.
Yep.
Perfect. So this is a no cost change order. When the whole tile thing was going on, the janitor's closet was supposed to get wall tile, and it was just overkill. They changed a bunch of things around, and it's a no cost change order because it moves the cost from one trade to one subcontractor to another. So they just need to make sure that that gets processed. Again, it's no cost. Just need to get that in the works for approval, so that we can get that in the AIA with a bunch of other things that have already been agreed to. And this
Do you
is
want a
in the
motion for that, Chip? Do
janitor's closet.
you want us to make a motion, Chip, or do you
I
want to
think
hold up?
we need to, right?
Okay. Yeah, so I'll motion we approve change order 72 for
Second,
zero cost.
second,
Billy seconds.
Billy seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Okay, the access control and security cameras that started out in, I think, around the $50,000 range. We got it down to 17.
nice job.
This is PCO number 95 for 17,037. Included in this is $198 for additional door hardware for security tied to the security system. Additional, there's different additional points to monitor, as well as additional keypad. So that's $200 of it. And there's $17,000 for, I'm sorry, $8,600 for 4 additional cameras. One in really basically each of the program rooms is what the extra ones come down to. We relocated a couple other things, but there's 2 interior as well as 2 exterior cameras, one on Wall Street that's overseeing all of the hardscape areas along Wall Street, and one on Boston Post Roadside that will monitor the front entrance and that front plaza. And then there's additional like $3,600 for CE for the electrician to run the wiring and the conduit and the attachment plates, particularly on the exterior ones. So the total ends up being $17,000.37. And I think we've gone through this with, I don't know, Laura, how many meetings we had to make sure that we got, started out with much more, whittled it down to what's needed, and then whittled them down to make sure that we were only paying for these additional 4 cameras as well as the additional hardware.
Were you carrying this somewhere in your?
Yes. Yep. I've been carrying that. Originally was carrying the much higher number as an
Okay.
exposure, but yes, this is not a new item to the contingency status log.
Okay, good. I make a motion, we approve.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
So again, Kristen, that's PCO 95 for $17,037.
Yeah, I'm also taking snapshots of it too, so I can have it for later.
Okay. And then if you need me to send you a copy of the cover or anything, just let me know.
Okay.
All right, the next one is the wiring for the wireless access points. It's PCO 101 for $16,204. So there was no, wasn't anywhere for the 16 wireless access points. We're gonna have Lion hook them up, but they don't run wire, so we need somebody to do that. Frankly, the 16,000 feels high to me. But it may not be high enough to make it worth, trying to find somebody else to do it. Worry about procurement, worry about all the other side of bringing somebody else into it. But if you want us to pursue that, we can. But it's 16 wireless access points, so it comes down to the wiring about $1,000 a point.
Well, I agree with you. It's extremely high for that. But your point about not holding things up or getting another vendor is certainly valid too, Chip.
I've tried beating them up, and this is as close as I can get them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the electrician's like, if we don't do it, we don't do it. Get somebody else in. No, they're not worried about it. So.
Are any of them located outdoors?
Yes, one of them is. One of them is going to be on the light pole right next to the Ichabod Scranton House, so that we can actually provide the Wi-Fi to Ichabod Scranton House that way, rather than trying to shoot across through the window. We've already got conduit run to that for the security camera, so we just run right through there and going to attach it outside on that pole, and that's included in this cost.
Terminating as well?
Yes.
Um,
So Lion basically is just going to plug and play.
Yep. It's high, but I don't think it's worth not having them do it personally.
Does someone want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Landscape modifications, this is a credit of $900. Billy and Laura went through this, and Sunny, and said this is what they want to do, and just need to get a formal approval on that. And but just want to make sure, I didn't send it to the subcommittee because of Laura and Billy's involvement already. But this is to, reduce a number of the landscaping, as well as putting, I think, stone along the 1989 edition with the additional plantings there, removing all of the junipers, and still ended up with a credit of, $907.
So if you were by there today, everyone, you saw lots of plants going in. Looks like we got plenty of coverage. So I would move to approve this credit.
Second.
Change order.
George is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Shaping
All
up.
right. The next two are related to the heat pumps issues. The first one, 94, is for installing the ports and metering, pressure metering across the coils of each of the 3 units. So one in front, one in behind, so that the pressure drop across the coils could be measured. That's $3,905.
Chip, why did they say that they'd have ball valves? These are things they should have put in anyway to be able to isolate coils.
That was not part of the initial design.
Oh, I know. I know that. The question is who's responsible for that?
Well, certainly, the subcontractor's not. If it was not, if, you know, I'm listing this as an aerial omission issue.
Okay, great. That's
for you know.
Yeah, this is not an advanced issue. I'm very pleased with their performance.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out that I've never seen 3 heat pumps installed where you don't have the ability to shut one down.
Right. Well, and measure across and you know,
forgetting
talking with Frank.
I'm not sure I understand. Just normally you would do that because if one has to be removed, you know, you can shut it down. You can turn off the water in and out. You can remove it while the other 2 are continuing to function. But if you don't have a way to isolate a heat pump, how would you do any maintenance or replacement on that?
I can't say for sure that the valves have anything to do with isolation. I don't know for a fact that they were able to be isolated or not. I know this change order has to do with being able to install the pressure sensors across the coils. I know those were whether they could have been isolated or not, I can't speak to that.
It's generally standard when you have pieces of equipment that you set up valves so that you can shut down and repair, replace, or deal with cleaning a piece of equipment.
Again, to my knowledge, this is not related to shutdown and separation of equipment. I don't know for a fact.
Part of the normal design.
I understand.
Well, I didn't examine this. I wasn't there physically because of what's going on. Dave Hermanton told me that these should have been in from the get-go for that reason. Let's get clarification. Meanwhile, it has nothing to do with paying Mark. We should do that.
I make a motion that we approve this change order.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
All right, the next one, I'm going to flinch a little. Number 96, to install the circuit setters for $4,528. Now the circuit setters were put in because there was no means of modulating flow between the different heat pumps that were different sized, have different characteristics. So because they were parallel, they got the same flow. The circuit setters were the initial solution to address that. Again, I am classifying this as an error and omission because everybody I've heard has said that there should have been some type of control that way. Whether this is the correct one is still, you know, I think we talked earlier about, we don't need to rehash that. But again, Mark and his company put these in, and you know, I am listing these as error and omissions, similarly to the other one.
Okay, one little note, Chip, just because you're now getting to speak just like an HVAC engineer, so we're right on the same page. The change to modulating valves will only be on the earth loop side. So 3 of the 6 circuit setters will stay in place.
Okay.
And yes, they should have been there from the get-go because the systems were differently sized. So
right.
I'm fine. Once again, I'm fine with Mark's work.
So we have a second on that?
Second.
Second.
All in
Third.
favor?
Aye.
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 All right, the next three are more for discussion right now. I'm not ready to bring them forward, but I'm hoping to at the next meeting a week from Monday. The first is additional general conditions to take us from the early February date to the early March date. They're showing 32,586. Now, the backup in that includes, the schedule, though it's cut off to show the additional time. I'm comfortable with the additional time. There were so many changes and, primarily the changes that push that, all the enhancements, everything. What I'm not yet comfortable with is the cost. I asked for backup on that and haven't received that. Originally, when they set up the monthly general conditions payment, they basically figure out for the life of it what the general conditions are going to be and then divide it by the number of months, and you pay a 13th. Basically, I think it was a 13-month schedule originally each month. I said, I'm not paying an average. I want to know what we're paying for a middle month. We already own closeout. We already own this ramping down. What's that middle month when you're not, when you're just operating and you're really just paying for the primarily just the superintendent's time, and thought that I was getting backup in this, but I don't have that yet. So just, right now they're talking about 32,586. I am including that in my contingency status report. It may be the right number. It may not be the right number. I have nothing that justifies where they got 32,586. But just want to give you a heads up that that's out there.
And Chip, this is Mark. A couple questions.
Yep.
Is this the entirety of it? So the
No,
revised completion?
no, that's the next one. This does not include kind of the spring work that has occurred since March 10th. This gets us to March 10th, and then the next one is a lesser amount just to manage primarily the site and the flooring. It's more of a part-time change, and I'll switch this since I'm not looking for a motion on that. So that is an additional 24,807. This does assume that Eric is part-time, and that has started a bit. And I know we've had I have some concerns with that. I know Laura has some, and Ron have some concerns because there is still work going on. The building is open, and if he's only there part-time, that, the question is how much of an exposure is that? I talked to Wayne about that. He said that to have Eric there full-time, it's basically going to be about $4,000 a week. I'm not sure exactly how that impacts this 4,800. Again, I'm looking for much more clarification on what the costs are and how those were, how he got to those.
So there's two parts to this, right? One is the entitlement, and that would be the schedule impact analysis that you showed us, their schedule.
Yep.
The other part is damages, and to a degree, and this is always a difficult issue, but to the extent there's the extra work is driving this, there were markups included with all the extra work change orders that we wrote, and some of that could be applied to this increase in time.
Yeah, they typically actually do not add on for general conditions on their markups. So GCs CMs always do. They always add on general conditions to all of their change orders. These have just as an example here, this is one of the ones from earlier today. This is the cost straight to the subcontractor. You've got bond and insurance of 1% each, and then a 10% overhead and profit. They're not marking up for general conditions.
Okay, I guess it depends what's included in overhead.
Right. That's much more the office support that is typical, that you get, that is allowable by contract for the support staff, the estimators, all of that, those personnel. The cost of their office and office supplies and everything else really falls into that 10% overhead and profit. Not so much Eric's time and Wayne's time actively managing. That's part of the general conditions. And they have not added a markup for general conditions on any of their change orders. Certainly, if you're talking about a CM, you always see that.
Yeah, so you're saying that the overhead that's listed there is home office overhead. And
Right.
the general conditions is a sort of a field overhead.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, I do think that we need to understand the whole picture here, and I understand you're just preparing, showing us for information here.
Right.
You need to know the whole picture before we approve.
Exactly. And I don't have that comfort level that I can't justify these costs to you until they can justify them to me. And I'm not there yet. But, again, wanted just to remind everybody, make sure everybody understands that, the longer this goes, the more it costs.
Chip, I think you were carrying like 30 grand in your contingency lock for extended general conditions.
No, I've got both of these items in there.
Oh, you do
as is.
currently?
Yes.
I think initially you had 30, I thought.
Yeah, initially, yeah, I think initially it was about 38, I think. This, I think, started out as higher and they brought it down to here, but still haven't justified it. But since we got the second one, I added that in as well. And so I am carrying that.
Okay, good.
And I still show that we're okay.
Are
right
we
now.
going to talk about the overall issue with Eric and being on site? Is that come under another item?
Well,
Now
that,
it's time to talk about that.
that technically is not part of this, though. I guess it is. I mean, it really is the spring work. They priced him in at part-time. And if we want to push
What
them harder
what does
to
that
be,
look like? I mean, part-time looks like a lot of different things to different
Yeah.
people. So, I mean, part-time could be a half day every day. I don't,
that's not what they're doing. It's I don't have the detail on here to tell me. He
I
said it's
I
going
know,
to be
because today-
$4,000 a week to have him full-time.
So, today I got the text from him. Actually, the guy got to me before the text, but, could you let some guy in to get the sink out of the locked closet because the guy was there to put the sink in? And I got that text.
Right.
It happened.
That's the problem, right?
Exactly. So I don't know what we're going to do about this, but.
Well, I've had a number of conversations with Wayne. He basically said, look, I mean, they've got, unfortunately, they've got a couple issues. One, and it's not our issue, is that this is obviously going on longer than they planned, and Eric is supposed to be moving on to somewhere else. Okay, that's not our problem. It is what it is. But that there is a cost for full-time supervision, which, I mean, if we're gonna, expect him here full-time, obviously we have to pay for it. I think it would be hard to point the finger at Enterprise and say the only reason you're still here is because of your management. I think that there's been too many changes, too many issues with them waiting for clarification and for decisions to be able to definitively said, look, you guys have to eat it because you were supposed to be done March 10th and you're not. I don't think that would be fair. But we need to decide, whether we want to continue to pay them full time to be here for what is a much smaller crew, but a crew that needs to be managed. And that should not push over onto Laura to have to go let somebody in to a locked room. I asked for a key. I don't have one yet. So, maybe I could have done it too.
Laura will give you hers.
No, I'm not taking Laura's. So, you know,
You know,
I
I don't know who locks up at the end of the day. I just,
I think, you know, certainly they make arrangements for that. There are many days when, you know, there is a particular sub that wants to work late and they lock up. I mean, I know that right before, when I was still quarantined, but before I was symptomatic, I went there one evening just to get out of the house and walk around the outside. I didn't go in the building. And there was the drywall guy was there. I could see him inside, you know, he had his knee pads on, he was sanding, he was doing other stuff, but he was the only one there. And, you know, he's there, he knows he has to lock up, he knows what the procedure is. Certainly one of the trades that's there a lot inside particularly is the electricians right now. And there's, you know, the foreman is pretty responsible guy, and Enterprise trusts him to lock up properly. And I think that that's probably okay. But there's still just too many other things. There's too many people coming and going. There's too much, you know, where, you know, something needs to be coordinated, and it should not fall to us to do that. But we have to recognize that there's gonna be a cost to it, and you know, what the cost benefit to whether, well, if we don't want to pay Eric to be there full time, then we're going to get those calls.
Yeah, but there's another piece of this. Fortunately, Laura was there, but we talked about the other day, you knew they were coming and Eric knew they were coming to do this work. And
yeah, I don't know how, you know, I don't know how much, you know, the whole last month has been crazy because, you know, there are certain people who will come if nobody else is there. You know, if there's only a couple
Sure.
guys there, then somebody else will come. So I know he's been trying to manage to keep the crews smaller, and
Right.
keep the number of people. And some of them have been a little more sensitive to working on their own or working alone, you know, working, away from other people. So I know some of that does take place last minute.
And yesterday we went and took a look at the counters that were in, and we talked about that they were coming back.
Mhm.
And we talked about sinks, and they showed up today. And fortunately, you were there.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be like that.
Right. Right. So I mean, if they're gonna expect to do part-time, then they need to do a better job coordinating it.
Sure. Exactly.
So that we don't have, because that's not like, oh, we need to get access for an owner consultant. It's not for furniture. It's not for other things. It's not for the AV guy. It's not for all this other stuff that's more owner driven. I mean, you know, that's their subs to put the countertops in and install the sinks.
And there have been situations where closets have been open.
Yep.
And valuable things have been in those closets.
Yep, we talked about that too. Yes. So I guess the question is, do you want me to try to manage the cost, or do you want me to manage the coverage? Recognizing that there will be a cost. I mean, I can push them as hard as I want for you know, making sure that they're coordinating that stuff. But if something happens and a door accidentally gets locked, you know, somebody's got to unlock it.
Well, if we have that understanding with them, and then there is a fallback,
Mhm.
that's someone can be called to cover either from them or us, that's kind of a middle ground that may work.
Yeah. And you should get some keys.
Yeah. Well, I guess there was 2 spares, and you have one and Ron has one.
I'm fine with that. I'm not sure I want it, but I'm fine with that.
No, well, I meant Chip, but
Yeah, so I took it to be me.
Oh, okay. I'm fine with that.
well, I'm not, it's not like I'm going anywhere. So
So, I mean, I've had this conversation a couple of times. I didn't know that we ran into another coordination issue till now.
yeah, I mean, it's not the end of the world. I don't mean to, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about it.
Mhm.
You know, it's nice also to know, you know, if somebody's coming or if they know somebody's coming or, you know.
Right. Well,
something.
you know, the issue is that you know, they've been on the part-time now for 4 days, and we've already had 2 major issues
Mhm.
in 4 days. I guess maybe this isn't a major issue, but 2 issues, and Eric was here full day Wednesday. So it's really, 2 out of the 3 days, you know, we had something come up, whether it was the AV closet being left unlocked, or, you know, now, you know, his subcontractors couldn't get the materials that they need.
Well, we also had pallets of materials stuck behind the old post office. And there wasn't a discussion with Laura, myself, or you about what's the appropriate place to do it, considering the work we have to do in the very near future. So it eliminated us being able to do landscaping between the 2 buildings up against our neighbor. We adjusted to it, but part of it was he had no place to put it, but there should have been a discussion about that. Because what's back there.
I thought there was a discussion about putting them on the patio. Maybe they put it too far to the back.
Yeah,
But
he
we're-
hid it behind the Ichabod Scranton house.
It's
but then it
behind
made
the
access.
old post office.
Okay.
And it leaks out between the 2, and it's okay, but it's really not, I think, what we would have agreed to if we talked through everything.
Mm-hmm.
Has Enterprise developed any schedule of what days they would plan to have Eric on site and what time?
I have not seen that. I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, because if they could commit to, if he's going to be there part-time, if they could commit to what days and what time frames he'll be there, and they would need to coordinate that with any subs that were working, you know, that would be their responsibility to coordinate with their subs. But, you know, I've been helping out with the furniture deliveries, and, you know, I would be able to coordinate with Robert Lord and say, okay, somebody's going to be on site this day from this time period to this time period. You know, that's what we have to work with. So, you know,
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I think, Ron, you bring up a good point. I think if we can, I think, Chip, if you could work on the scheduling aspect of it first before we end up spending the money.
Okay.
yeah. So I think Enterprise is well intent. I'm sorry, Laura.
No, you're right. Go ahead.
I think Enterprise is well intended.
Yes.
It just needs some coordination.
Yep. So yes, we definitely need obviously better coordination, and I will ask for a definitive schedule that they're going to stick to. And if it's not Eric, that they provide somebody else. You know, I mean, you know, at this point, there's not a lot of real heavy decision making that they need to do on site. You know, I forget that younger guy's name who was around for a little while. You know, if he was to come, you know, and do office work from on site, that's fine. He's there if need be, and if there's a question, he can call Eric.
He's no
The
longer
key
with
is
the
that,
company.
what's that?
He's no longer with Enterprise, from what I heard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, because he was there. He was
that
there a couple weeks
notwithstanding-
ago. Yeah, but as an example, get somebody there just to be there for those kinds of things. And if an issue comes up, they can call Eric. But they should be calling Laura and texting Laura as their go-to. All right.
Yep.
I got it. And then the final one that I want to talk about is the monumental stair. We are still reviewing this, and we're pushing back on Wayne for this. When they were finishing up the monumental stair and doing that patio, the grading didn't work at all, requiring an extra 3 steps. If you look now, you see that there is rough concrete on the bottoms. Whoops. I'm not showing this yet. I have a little slideshow I wanted to go through at the other, but this. Whoops. So in order to make the grade from an ADA standpoint, they need to add these 3 steps. The cost of that right now is an additional $18,000, which we've kicked back to Wayne to justify because that just seemed very high for 3 steps compared to the entire thing. And also talk about other options, whether it's putting pavers on these, if we can make it work from a height standpoint. But potentially we've got another $18,000 exposure on this stair on top of what we already paid. And, you know, again, we're working through to bring that down, but it's not going to come down significantly.
Well, I've said it before, tens of thousands of people go by that every week on the post road, and I think we want it to look as nice as possible. And I'm amazed that we have an ADA compliance issue for a stair that can't be used.
Well, it's more the ADA compliance of the sidewalks.
I got you.
So you've got the door at, you know, at one fixed point, you've got the sidewalks at another fixed point, you've got the stairs over, you know, over there, that's another fixed point. And in order to make all of that work, if the walk was up here, you would have too steep of a grade everywhere
Yeah.
else.
I got you.
As it is, there's some, the building official has asked us to cross-check, double-check the grading to make sure we're okay, so we don't have to add railings in here. And I haven't heard the results of that. Apparently they were measured earlier in the week, but I haven't seen the results yet.
Is that the cross slope he was concerned with, or the?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And he wasn't necessarily concerned. He's just like, you need to check it and verify it.
Yeah,
Well,
2%
one of the
cross
issues-
slope. Yeah.
One of the issues with the building officials and the fire marshal is that they walk through, they make off the cuff comments, don't put anything in writing, and don't say that something is a problem. It's more like, gee, I think that might be an issue. That makes it kind of tough for us to respond. And it's not just this, it's been on a few others.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I said, I'll echo that on the PV. She
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
Where are we with the ramp coming from Wall Street up to in front of the original building that clearly doesn't meet current ADA slope?
Well, that is one of the areas that they're checking, and what we may have to do if that is not 1 in 20, we may have to just add a railing would be the only thing we probably do there. We're not going to rip it all up and redo it.
Right, but
We're gonna add a railing.
is a railing is acceptable in Connecticut?
Yeah, because I think it is it should meet 1 in 12.
Correct.
So if it's 1 in 12, then it's a legal ramp. You need to have a railing. If it's 1 in 20, it's a sloped sidewalk.
And
It doesn't need a ramp. Doesn't need a
Right,
railing.
right.
So that is just that's one of the areas that needed to be verified
Got it.
as to whether we're at 1 in 12 or 1 in 20.
It depends on how they're going to measure the 1 in 12, because part of it I don't think complies and
Okay.
part of it does. So,
Well, they're working on that.
okay.
Certainly that's on the list to verify, and again, just may need a handrail.
All right.
Very good.
So that's it, Chip?
That's it for me right now.
Yep, though, but
Thanks,
let's,
Chip.
you want me to go into the PV or what?
Yep.
Did you submit that to Enterprise yet?
I have not submitted that to Enterprise. That's Sunlight's responsibility to submit that to Enterprise. I mean, Sunlight is their subcontractor.
Okay, you want Kate to do that,
Oh, sure, yeah.
but I thought that we had to let Enterprise know it was coming and approved.
They know that, yeah, they know that the issue's out there.
Okay, all right, I'll take care of that first thing
Yep.
in the morning.
Yep.
So, and have you gotten a roofing credit for the anchors?
It's, from what I understand, yes, it's gonna be that $12,000 number for, the new edition roof. Where they broke out the anchors for the new edition and the 1990s, 89 edition roofs. So we have those separate costs. What we still need to do though, before that is actually fully issued, is get the final design and anchor count on the 89 edition. We have a cost based on a certain amount of anchors and a add alternate for additional anchors, because at the time, all the engineering had been completed, and depending on the system, it was gonna be one number or another. So we need to know how many points there are so that we can do that net change. We don't want to have a credit for one and then another one later on for the add.
Agreed. I may have that. Okay, so, but in rough numbers, we're in pretty good shape. Do you want, where is the committee on the PV situation? We discussed it at the last in-person meeting. I don't know if you want me to review where we are, just so everybody's up to date. What do you think, Graham?
Yeah, we're not going anywhere, so.
Okay, so basically, Vinny and Sam DeBurra, in their infinite wisdom, decided that, oh Jesus, I shouldn't say that. Kristen, don't write that down.
Right.
We're also being watched on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's live. It's live, but don't worry.
Yeah, right. We're recording.
It's okay. Public is Vinny's wife.
But in any case, at the last moment, we had to make some changes in the layout of the panels on the main roof of the addition. And that necessitated putting some panels on the 1989 edition, which initially I was under the impression was going to be an added row, which turned out not to be an added row at all. So it will just be a continuation of the existing 2 rows that were already approved. And I think it's just a few panels. It's nothing significant. Do you have that, Ron, or Chip? No, you have it, right? I sent you the drawings.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't recall seeing them, but I was kind of down and out for a while, so I'm not sure.
You sent some to me and I'm looking for them, Woody.
I'm looking for it right now myself.
Basically, the area where the skylight is, that basically is not in view. They were able to adjust and put ones that were in the back north side of the skylight.
Sorry, I do have them.
And do the additional ones there so that nothing had to be put on the front roof.
No
No,
additional ones.
there's a couple of additional panels on the front, on the south facing roof, but it did not require an extra row.
Right, but don't we have some in the back too?
Yes, there's many more
Okay.
in the back. Yep, that's it. You see back here, that's where we had to reduce panels in
Oh,
there.
back here.
In
Yeah.
the back.
But which one is this?
This is the one you sent to me on 3:30.
I sent both, right? Yep,
You know, it's all these different pages, but
yep.
Yeah, that's the key one. PV 2.0.
What's the date?
That says 12/4, but again, it came in an email from you on,
Yeah, but I think I sent you the old and the new. I think that this is,
oh, okay, got it.
I think this is the old.
Okay, here we go. Yep, sorry. Get rid of that. All right, so let me just flip these. All right, so this is the new. Do you want, which one do you want, the overhead, or do you want that? What page do you want?
Whatever you think is more, shows it off better, but you can see it's still two panels. I mean, two rows on the south facing roof.
Yeah, up front. 189.
And then they had to add panels here
And in the back.
and in the back.
Yep. Yeah, the key thing was that ACA said only 2 rows and no jagged edge on the front.
Right.
And-
It had to be a rectangle and it had to be 2 rows.
Right,
And
so we're still clean.
we're still good.
Yep.
And then, of course, we had the problem with the racking company not being able to deliver even close to on time. And so we went through the entire change from a partially ballasted, partially anchored system to a fully ballasted system, which took engineering to review, and Ron was involved and DRA was involved. And so we're fine on that. So we are ready to go on this. I didn't realize that we didn't submit to Enterprise. So I'll make sure that Kate submits her change order, which is, hang on, $3,165 change from Kate, plus the 1%, 1%, 10%. But we're getting a credit for not using the anchors of somewheres in the $10,000 range. I think Chip said 12, but I know we have to add a couple of anchors. So let's just say 10. So the net change will be a credit of around 6,000 or 7,000 to accomplish this, and it won't hold up the installation at all at this point.
Woody, when do you think that installation will take place?
I guess not until Enterprise gets us a change order we can accept, and because the value is going to be low, you guys could do that. I'll get it submitted tomorrow.
Yeah, Enterprise can turn that around pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and I know Kate has been in communication with Wayne on a regular basis.
Is there a tentative install date?
I can ask Kate tomorrow and shoot you an email.
Now, has this been approved by the town?
I believe so. She
Okay.
applied for a building permit last week.
Do we
Or
know if
maybe
she has
even-
it or not?
I don't know whether she has it or not, but every change that Vinny and Sam wanted was made, even ones that she didn't feel were necessary. Why don't I get an update and shoot everybody an email tomorrow?
It might be beneficial for her to follow up. I submitted for a permit on something not significant at all, and it took over a month.
Okay, I'll get status and everything tomorrow and get back to everybody. Any comments, or do we have, I don't know that we have to do anything at this point, do we?
No,
No,
Okay.
I think it's just noted. Well, it's good because, then as long as the change order comes through, George and Mark are aware of everything that's happened, so that they can review that in context without having to come back to the full committee.
George and Laura, do you want me to shoot you the change order?
Sure, sounds good, Woody.
the change order from Kate, and then you'll know that there's a 1, 1, and 10 going on top of it.
Sure.
Okay.
Chip, do you want me to talk about the La Rosa change order?
The newest one?
Yeah.
If you'd like.
Laura and I have been on site looking and working with the hardscape and the installation of the plants, and the semicircle and the area for the chess tables is essentially done. But the way the pavers are laid out parallel to the Wall Street sidewalk, when you cut a circle out of them, you end up with slivers. And the way they set the concrete base with an edge, there really isn't any way to hold the slivers easily. So we came up with using granite edgers that are only 4 inches thick, 4 inches wide and 8 inches long, and La Rosa has them. And
Yeah, my picture is too
they had
old.
a very quick turnaround with Chip, and Chip sent me yesterday afternoon the change order, and there's a lot of confusing things on it, but it looks like it's going to be a little over $4,000 maybe when we're done, but I'm not sure because there's one line item that says subcontractor, linear feet, and they're saying it's 130, which I think is a little high, times 15. And their math comes up to $1,950. So they got an F in math, and I'm not sure what it is, that particular line item. So that's a
Well,
fairly,
that's for the mason that's on site. So the guys that were laying the blocks
right?
do not work for La Rosa. They're a
I
subcontractor.
understand.
Sub.
Then why does La Rosa want almost $1,000 for their guys who are doing nothing?
Because they supervise.
Yeah, we're paying $360 for their truck, and it's not them that's doing it. And we're paying the subcontractor nothing. I'm assuming the subcontractor is 150 and not 15. And then the math makes
Oh,
sense.
well, that's materials, right? Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's
No, it's not
100
materials.
130 times 15 is 1950.
You're right. Excuse me. Duh. So we're basically around $4,700, but
Plus markups, plus that 1 and 1 and 10.
right. So there's some things in here that don't make sense, including my math.
But, I think we'll work through
wanna
those
do this.
details.
Yeah, we want to do this though.
We
But,
definitely want to do it.
The reality, I think it may have already been done.
No,
It wasn't?
No,
today.
Okay.
No,
No,
you don't
they're
even
waiting for us.
they don't have the material on site.
Okay.
They were,
But they can bring it over tomorrow and the guy will do the work on Saturday.
right.
So they're waiting for us.
So I don't know where we are with some of this stuff.
But I think we should approve it with an up to. So, it's going to be less than $6,000.
Yes.
And it's the edging around the semicircle, both sides of the quarter round, and then the little square that's on the east side of the sidewalk.
So the square is included too. See, I didn't get that.
Maybe not.
I'm not sure if it is.
It doesn't say that on here. If it did
Yeah,
say.
I think that there was a no on that because you're not going to have that
Because you
same
don't have the
issue. You're not
curve.
going to have those little slivers that fall off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no little chips.
So
it's
but
okay.
it's two sides of that quarter round.
Right.
Right.
And then the whole half round. So,
The basic price is okay. How they got there is really kind of strange.
Yeah, well, I'll verify all that stuff. I come up to, if you add the 12%, because it's usually the 1 and 1 and 10 are all, they're not cumulative, they're all based on the change
on
order
the base.
cost.
Okay, good.
But it comes out to 5362. So, I mean, I don't know that we want to put that exact number, but if we say 5,500, you want to say 6,000, that's fine. The big thing they just are going to want is, a verbal that yes, it's a go.
Yeah, I'd like
Yeah.
to do that. I'd like to move that we make this up to $6,000, the change for the rim around those hardscape areas of the granite.
Okay. And
So-
the extra money was for what, Chip?
The
The one-
extras, the markups from Enterprise. This is just straight LaRosa's number.
Got it. The one
We need
and
to add on Enterprise's management fees too.
Right.
The insurance, the bond, the insurance, and the overhead and profit.
Right,
1
so
and 1
that's
and 10.
12, that's 12%, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're clearly fine at 5,500.
Right.
So can we make a motion up to that amount is okay?
I did up to, I did 6,000.
Okay, that's
You wanna
fine.
make it 55?
Second,
You can second.
any discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
The landscaping has all been placed and put in. They're going to mulch and put in the stone mulch tomorrow. So you can take a look at everything. I haven't seen anything happen along our east property line. Is there any update on what our neighbor is going to do and when?
No, I've mentioned it to them a couple of times. I think the best thing to do is to get a meeting with Scott to do that, which I wasn't able to do previous to this week. So now that I can be out and around, I will get on Scott's calendar, in the next couple of days, just to walk and make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, did Enterprise clean up what they needed to do?
Well, not fully because the silt fence is still there.
Okay,
So until, so the silt, so they can't really do all of the grading until they pull the silt fence out.
okay.
Now, there is a potential issue at where the curb ends at the start of the drive to Route 1, in that Scott's concerned, or just ask the question, is there an issue with runoff into that corner, because that is where his leaching fields are? And we just need to look at that. Rob said that there's supposed to be a berm, what's that called?
Swale.
A swale, thank you. But I haven't actually seen that in the documents directing Enterprise anywhere that there's supposed to be a swale. So I asked the question, he said, I said, is that in the documents? And he said, no, that was, kind of discussed, added. But if Enterprise doesn't know about the swale, then Enterprise doesn't know about the swale.
I have not seen a swale.
No, there's
on-
nothing listed anywhere with a swale.
Okay. All
And it
right.
would be, yeah, to put it in, we'd have to regrade part of his property and
It's a
resurface
pain
that.
in the ass.
Right. So, or we need to do
difficult to do.
might need to do some bituminous curb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a Cape Cod curb of 30, 40 feet just to kick it past it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's more water going there now than there was with the way the parking lot's graded.
That's what I wasn't sure, if
I'm
there's
pretty sure. I
not,
think,
there
George, you
there
looked
is there is a catch basin not too far from there, but how much the water is actually going there, I haven't been able to witness.
Yeah, I think, George, I think you looked at that pretty closely, right? I think there's a lot of water going there.
Yeah, it's water going down that drive for sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it runs off into his property, so.
Yeah,
Is the drive sloped towards the building, level, or towards him? Across the driveway?
it's got a
I think
little
it
bit
takes-
of crown to it.
A little bit of crown, so it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think a little, 30, 40 feet of curb will make him happy.
Okay.
So, okay, so moving on to number 7, DRA's update.
Okay.
Still there, Ron?
Hi, we'll be, I've been tying up some loose ends for possible certificate of occupancy items to, to schedule the walkthrough with the building officials, working with Enterprise on those items. I've also trying to tie up the signage package, get that wrapped up. I've been the past few days working with Robert Lord on overseeing their furniture delivery and installation. I've been taking notes, taking pictures of any items that are damaged or need to be repaired, and just like 2 or 3 items. And Robert Lord is aware of them. They'll take care of either touch up or replacement. We have another installation coming tomorrow morning that I'll be meeting Robert Lord at the site and doing the same thing, making sure they get in okay, answering any questions, inspecting the furniture to make sure that the quantities are correct and the items aren't damaged, and recording any damage that has occurred. We'll be, as Chip said earlier, we'll be working with everybody to schedule that pre-balancing call for coordination so that everybody's on the same page, everybody's moving in the same directions, and avoid any questions afterwards, and hopefully get this thing wrapped up and move forward and resolved. That's pretty much it for architecture these days.
Is there any tricky item to deal with getting the CO at this point?
No, not really. There were, they made a few comments about exit sign locations, which we've addressed, or in the process of addressing. But nothing significant, nothing major.
Good.
And again, these are kind of off the cuff comments as they were walking through. They haven't given us any written documentation saying this is definitely a violation. There is one item that calls for a code mod. We've submitted the application to the local officials. They have to sign off on it and then submit it to the state. But since the solution was their recommendation, we don't see a problem with them signing off on it. Basically, the stairs that go up to the mechanical room from the original building, the steps that are in that little exterior vestibule, we had to pour a concrete pad to extend the tread of the bottom step. And
Bottom step was only like a little half step. It
Yeah.
wasn't full width.
yeah. So we that's already been done. We poured the step. They asked us to put hand railing. We're getting that something fabricated so that it's minimal. You won't be able to see it from the street, or it'll just kind of blend into the background. So it's easily solved. And since they, as I mentioned, since they made the recommendation for the solution, we don't expect them to disagree with it. We expect that they'll sign off on the modification, send it to the state for final approval. The thing is, we have not gotten an answer back from them as to where they are in the process. Eric and I have been in touch with them a number of times and just not getting responses from them. So we're still chasing it down to make sure that the mod request, modification application is in process with the state.
Are they using that as part of the CO?
Yeah, I would imagine it is. If it's a code modification, they would have to include that as part of the certificate inspection.
So without that, they could withhold the CO.
Presumably.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah. Usually on a mod like that, they have a lot of latitude. So I'm not sure. They're basically doing cover their ass there.
Yeah. Which has kind of been, throughout the project. A lot of these things seem to be covering all the bases.
Yeah.
But that said, we filled out the application. We provided the code sections that they referred to. We provided drawings and even photographs that are annotated through PDFs, explaining the existing situation, what's being done to solve it. It's really just a matter of them sending it through to the state.
I would ask them to see if you can get the CO without that because of the problems with the state really functioning normally, and see whether they'll be okay with it.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Ask them if they will consider giving you a CO if all the other items are dealt with, because this outstanding item is unusually affected by what's going on in the state. Because state's not functioning very well, apparently. That they don't have the staff, they don't have the consistency. So it could be that they're just dealing with what they have to deal with.
Right.
I don't know, because usually the turnaround with them is pretty good. So
They-
ask, and they're
yeah.
not going to, until we ask, they won't have the opportunity to say, yes, we'll let you get the CO without that because we know that'll be okay.
Right. No, we will talk to them. I mean, in general, they've been okay to work with. It's just a matter of communications. And we don't know if it may be just because they're not working in their office.
Yeah. And they may, whoever needs to get it may not have even physically gotten it yet.
Right.
So,
Right.
okay. Good luck.
Ron, the Lion IT guys had a question about the HVAC and remote access that had to do, I'm trying to remember the specific. They asked Eric and he's put it onto the sub. I don't know if it's a sort of thing somebody else needs to follow up with it. Chip, maybe it's you. I don't know.
Okay.
It
Yeah, we
has to
talked
do with the
about
number-
it the other day.
Yeah, it's the number of ports, I think, and whether it's it may have to do with the different networks, the staff network and the public network, and access and all that. The HTTP and the HTTPS.
Yeah, I'll follow up with you just to get exactly the details, or I'll follow up with Lion and make sure that we get that all squared away.
Okay. Ready for FF&E?
Yes, eagerly anticipated.
Okay. Ron, you didn't talk about the clouds or the countertops. I mean, there've been a lot of changes over the last couple of weeks. So for anybody who hasn't been in the building, that's probably most of you, but huge changes, and things actually look amazing.
I do have a slideshow for as we get
Oh, good.
along. It's 2 days old, but
Oh, all right. So, but one of the items is the cloud. They're
Ceiling.
the ceilings, the special ceilings that are over the service desks. And they have underneath it, it's a perforated metal, and it's very attractive, and it will look particularly attractive with the art feature if that, as long as that goes forward.
Those were just installed today, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yesterday and today.
Okay.
Who, so FF&E, so we have shelving. I think that was getting installed the last time we met, or the last time we talked. And so that's well along. There's some finish items on that that need to get fixed, and some we'll have shelving in the offices, but until the office furniture is delivered, we're not going to install those because we just want to make sure the placement on those. But the shelving all looks really, really great. As Ron said, we've got furniture. There's a lot of the programming tables, and a lot of the chairs have been delivered. And so it just looks amazing, I have to say. We've had, as you know, from the invoices, I've ordered desktops and laptops. Those things have arrived. We're working with Envisionware, the software company, on there's a lot of back things that have to happen in terms of surveys and working with the staff on how we want that to be set up. You know, can somebody print who has an expired library card, and you know how the credit card's going to work, and all that sort of thing. We're also trying to get the Wi-Fi up and running so that as the weather gets nicer and the outdoor patios get fixed, whether we're open or not, we would have Wi-Fi. So there would be at least that option for the public to use. So the Sen people who do the fiber, they came and did a first install. I believe there's a lot of steps to it. So we've had the Lion IT guys in to proceed with that. So that's moving along. So, and Ron, if I've gotten I have the invoice from the furniture from Robert Lord. So as soon as we have those items resolved, I'll pass that invoice along, but I'll hold it back until those items are resolved. Or I can pass that on and we can hold back the next invoice.
Right.
We can talk about that later though.
Yep. What we'll need to do is just get confirmation back from Robert Lord as to when the replacement parts will be coming in. The touch-up items for the paint, that's something they should be able to do. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
When I worked there, I actually put together a kit for them to do that on site, clean things up and, you know, touch things up. Hopefully they didn't throw it out when I left, but I doubt that they did. Once they, talk to VS about and the other manufacturer about any damaged items that need to be replaced, they'll come back and say, this is what we've ordered. This is when we expect it to be in, and we'll have that confirmation.
Great. Well, I'm excited for tomorrow because I think the Hayworth stuff that's supposed to come tomorrow is a bunch of the soft seating, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be, it'll definitely add a little bit of splash of color. So
that'll be nice.
Yeah.
The furniture looks good. I really like in the program rooms, those blue chairs really look nice in that space. I've seen so many, black chairs in my career. It's like, if I see another black chair, I'm going to jump out the window, even though I'm sitting in one now, but besides that, no, it looks nice. They did it really is coming along very well.
Yeah, I'm pleased. I'm pleased with the way things look. So
good.
Actually, I'm ecstatic.
You're doing a good job of controlling it.
If you have a chance, it's worth stopping by when someone's there to let you in, or just call Laura. Because a lot of the things that have just appeared, the countertops and the furniture up in the teen room, and it has a serenity to it that I've never experienced in a library. It has a presence that I think people are going to be really surprised when they experience it. It's elegant, and we've done a great job. We have to keep on telling ourselves every time we have meetings like this with all the crap going on.
This
Just-
is, you see the underside, that's right.
It's really nice. And then,
Yeah.
so if you have a chance, definitely check it out.
Well, let me qualify that. That should only be to the building committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody's there. It is not open to the public. We
No,
do
no.
Not
No,
have
no,
a
it's just us.
certificate of occupancy.
There is no public on. There's only 11 of us.
Well, you don't know.
Yes, we
It's being
do.
broadcast.
If you're
This is
changing-
live.
You're heading down.
Yeah, it's live
anyway,
on YouTube.
a special trip, but if you could let
Oh,
me,
hello, everyone.
Mr. Putin.
So if you do show up, social distancing rules, wear a mask.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
In the car.
Very good.
Nice.
It's like, that concludes FF&E.
Yes.
Ready to go to landscaping, which I think we already touched on, but
Yeah, we've gone over that.
Do we want to talk about bike rack? Who owns the bike rack? Is that,
I will check.
We
To see
do
if there
not
was-
have bike racks. They don't own the bike racks.
They don't? Are we sure? I thought they did.
it was,
Thought
it
they
was in the
specified
plan,
it.
so I don't know.
Do they have a line item for that? Because we've not picked them. I don't know.
I'll have to investigate that. I thought they
If you
did,
would.
but
If you would, because we're ready to pick something.
okay.
Did you like the pictures that I sent? Is that along the?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
No.
I have a favorite. Billy and I haven't talked, but I have a favorite.
I
Okay.
don't like any of them. So we have a problem again.
You don't like any of them?
Not really.
I thought you'd like them. They're kind of, sculptural and
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
Some-
should I-
I'm-
I'm sorry.
I just looked at them briefly and part of it was the color they were.
yeah, that's to be considered. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I do have one item, sorry.
One of them is okay. The first one I thought was terrible.
That was my favorite. No, I'm just kidding.
That's why you put it first. I assumed it was your favorite.
No, it was the first one I clicked on when I went to the website.
Okay, yeah. That one you should have discarded. Do they own it? Chip?
I'll have to look. I can't tell you that I can find that now.
I
While
can't
we're sitting
remember
here.
it. Yeah, but regardless, it's not a lot of money. For the two of them, what, $1,000 to $1,200, Ron?
Yeah, I mean, some of them were in the $400 range. Some of them were at the upper end of $1,000 to $1,200. Now that's just list price off off their website.
Right.
But they're not extremely expensive.
No. There's one down by the ramp coming across from the old post office. There's one to the left of the north entrance. Neither one of them are going to be big. So there's not a lot of money involved. I'm assuming you like the sloped one that was circular. Is that right, Laura?
No, I don't think so, but we can talk about that later.
Okay.
I did want to talk about the lockers though, Chip, or is that an item that we need to discuss? We have lockers in the staff area.
Right.
And we went back and forth on what was owned and what wasn't. And
They're, their owner supplied. That's been
so,
confirmed.
so we have to order them, and we can get them from the shelving company. And the total is $19.65. And they'll measure and they'll install, and that includes installation and shipping and all of that. So I'd like to go ahead and do that. Do I need to make a motion?
What's that buying? How
The
many?
lockers,
How many?
10
Oh, that's,
stacked, 5, it's 5 over 5.
yeah.
With a base, they think they're 4 inches off the floor, and it's a base covering around them. It's the the locks are integrated into the lockers,
Into the doors.
into the doors. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds fine for 10.
Yeah, make a motion, Laura.
Yeah.
I'd like to move that we purchase lockers from PSI for $19.65 and 16 cents.
Make a second, George.
Second,
Any discussion?
And that included delivery and installation as well, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
Is that on the schedule, the state schedule, or how is that?
Yes, the shelving company is a state vendor, state approved vendor.
Got it. Okay. We have a motion and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved unanimously?
what's your cat say, Billy?
He left. He just got fed up. He wants to be fed is the problem, and I'm not moving.
That cat has the potential to be an internet star.
Don't say anything like that in front of him. He doesn't need any more.
Very good.
Good. That concludes that. Okay, let's see. Moving on to item D, sidewalks.
We got him. We need him, or we got him.
Well, as you all know, I've sent a few emails out about the sidewalks and what we got as a concept. I'm just not very pleased with the quality of the work or the amount of money that they've charged for that.
So,
and their
so
total
Billy,
contract.
Billy, what they submitted was a concept for comment. So, they put that together based on,
On
what is else downtown, with, matching up the curbs. And now we comment, and then they are, it makes sense to, if we don't want the trees, and if the town agrees that they don't want the trees, because ultimately I think that's town property, so we probably should get Dave Anderson's opinion on that. Then they take those out. I mean, and then further design. I mean, it is a fairly complicated area, given how many, again, just similar to the patio, how many existing points there are between the street and potential, matching up a potential curb line, the stair, the ADA sidewalk curb cut at the entrance, coming down the stair on the other, then the ramp up to the patio, the various points of the hardscape along Wall Street, the trees that are existing there. So, I mean, it's not a straightforward sidewalk where, you're just all open and can do what you want. $1,200, I know that you were questioning that for their concept, but that's what, a day's worth of work, and they put a day's worth of work in that or plus. So I don't, the $1,200 didn't bother me for a concept. They came out, they visited the site a couple of times, looking at things. So, I know that you're concerned about the cost, but it's not as straightforward as taking the town detail and just drawing it on the paper. Once they put together the design documents after that concept is finalized, there is some work with the surveying and making all of those points meet without and still meeting ADA.
I don't disagree with that part of it. Where I have a problem is if you look at what you're doing, that there's landscape work that's being done adjacent to it. If they looked at it, there's no evidence of it because they put trees in conflict with what we were proposing to put in. If you look at very simple things, putting the sidewalk the full width from the driveway on the east end all the way down doesn't make any sense with street trees and grates. So it just didn't seem like there was much thought or interaction with people that are involved in the project that would have made the concept for us to review something that was more integrated in the reality of what it was being adjacent to. So I understand what you're saying.
Hmm.
I don't think the conceptual product really is something that I'm impressed by. I mean, they didn't even line up the ramp with a crosswalk. I mean, it just, the little details. They put a street tree right in front of one of the coffee trees. So either they were not given the landscape plan, they didn't think about it, I'm not sure. But because it was design work, I think part of my problem is that Laura and I were never involved. We never had the opportunity to be a resource for them and talk about, this is what we're thinking of doing. I'm not sure we can do that for these reasons. And we can go back and forth and come up with something that the committee can really react to. And it's based on the experience of people that are involved, the project work that's already been done that's adjacent to it. That's where I really find fault with the way it's ended up.
Right.
You know, and George and Mark are spearheading this, from what I understand. And it's something that really involves more of us.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
that's where my concern is. You know, and it says that it's been reviewed by a principal. If I was a principal, I wouldn't be okay with what someone put on that piece of paper. It's sloppy. But
And I-
you know, we are where we are, but we need to move on in a way that's much more effective than what we've done so far and gotten so far. And regardless, the issue is the corner. What happens on Boston Post Road and Wall Street is pretty straightforward. The corner is a pain in the ass.
Right.
With the ramps, the stairs, everything about it is difficult.
Right.
I don't think it's $28,000 worth of difficult.
Well, it's Billy, it's not 28,000, it's $19,000, by the way.
It's 19?
19, yes. I got him to reduce the number. That the
Okay.
contract's for 19.
But
Yeah.
did they start out at 28?
No, I don't think they were ever at 28. They might have been 20, mid-low 20s, but I
Okay.
asked them to tighten up. the number.
19.8 is what I'm carrying as the contract cost.
Yeah, that's the contract value, yes.
All right.
And in terms of I asked him about the grates, which are the same as the one downtown, are ADA accessible, so that you can access, wheelchair over those grates, and as they are in the rest of downtown. About the trees, he did say that he understands the desire not only to put the trees down, but he does want to make a point that we should consider some trees on the corners, because the view, looking at the building from mid block, there's a lot of elevation elements going, and he's suggesting that we should consider, or at least entertain his idea of putting a couple of trees there to kind of break up some of all the facades that you're seeing from that corner. Again, it's a complete subjective thing, but he felt strongly that we should at least consider a few trees. He understands going down Post Road, probably not with the existing trees, but he thinks he should at least entertain the discussion of what the view looks like from the building down. We've all looked at that view, and it is a little jarring because there is a lot going on. So,
Well, you need to look at where the western coffee tree is planted now. And you'll see that it mitigates and will mitigate in time a fair amount of that.
Yeah.
Like
I
now
think-
that
I
the
think we
landscape,
should-
oh, go ahead.
I think we should take a look at it now that the landscaping has been planted. We'll have a better idea of how things will grow out, and can take a look at it, because I think his tree on the corner, the Wall Street side of it, if you're standing at Walker Loading and you're looking at the building, it kind of blocks where the two buildings come together. That was kind of the angle of that tree from what I remember. but I think we should look at it again in person and we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can, when we did the initial walkthrough for the schematic too, Billy, just so you're aware, it was more an engineering exercise, you know, we were trying to get the grades, and you've got to sink a curb in there, of course, you know, to line up with the post road and all that stuff. So there's a lot more effort put into the engineering side of it for sure. You know, the aesthetic side certainly can have a lot of input. There's no question about that. So anything that's been put to paper can be changed, as Chip was saying earlier. It's not a big deal.
I just wasn't aware of what was going on. So when I got into my grant, I would have appreciated someone to say to me, calm down, this is what we've done, lighten up.
I was trying to email you.
Henry wants to go away now. I'm sorry, man.
You changed the focus of my eye here.
I appreciate
and the other thing was, I didn't think we could afford what they were doing with the trees and the grates, because that is not inexpensive. We barely have a budget to do all the sidewalks.
Right. Well,
Right.
so, you know, again, I think the next step would be to set up a formal review of that, so we can, you know, give them the feedback that we need to. I do think that we should be bringing, you know, Dave Anderson in, or whoever is the appropriate person from the town, because ultimately those are town sidewalks, and we want to make sure that they're signing off on whether there's trees or no trees.
Well, it's John and Dave.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
Public Works and Dave.
Yep.
I reached out to John, and he just got back to me today, but he's free the next couple of weeks, it looks like. So we'll try to get him down there, and we can get a small group together and
Sure.
talk it through. That's not a problem.
Okay.
And he can bring Dave or whoever he wants at that point.
Right.
Yeah, Dave just may defer to him, but want to be involved.
Yep. Well, yeah, we can throw it out there and let them tell us what we need to do and should do, given, you know, wanting to avoid conflicting with the new library landscaping, yet still being consistent with the look and the feel of the downtown area.
Okay.
Sure.
Right, and relative to fees, I think doing it right, as we've seen from changes in site, you could spend $18,000 very quickly on a few change orders if you haven't documented the existing condition completely, and the proposed condition.
Right. If they got, you know, they're doing surveying and doing very detailed work on the corner, sure.
Yeah, because we could mess that up pretty easily.
Yeah, because, you know, we have problems with civil because that was not done carefully on the site. So let's not do it on the corner.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Right. Mark, any update on when the DOT might be out there doing their curb work? I don't know if this schedule's been impacted.
You know, Graham, I tried to check today. Most people are working from home, so I didn't get an answer back. So when I do, I'll send it out to everybody.
Great. Do you know if the contract went out? I know they were planning on bidding it for a spring start, right? I don't know if that one went forward.
So all the contracts are going out. We haven't stopped anything. I don't know where that one is in the process, though.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I haven't heard anything, and John didn't know. He was not aware of it. I don't know if he probably would have heard if they were going to do something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll update both. Where the project is in the procurement phase and what the schedule is as well. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Moving on to energy related. I don't know if we need to discuss that any further.
No, I don't think we need to discuss anything we've previously discussed, but one thing's kind of come up in what I'm doing with Billy McMinn in auditing the Hand High and Brown and Polson schools. We hired some people to do some extensive auditing, and we've been reviewing it. And the building automation systems kind of popped out of nowhere as being things that are quite an issue. And I just wanted to plant a seed in Laura and Nicole's minds that you're going to have two fairly complicated building systems. One in the lighting, which kind of is a shame. And then the other in the building management system, which is going to handle almost every aspect of your building. And this is actually thanks to Frank Baldino, that he asked me, he says, who's going to be running that system for the library? And I haven't got the vaguest idea.
Laura.
Woody, we kind of figured you would be doing it.
No, put that in. Laura, I'll be happy to start tutoring. It should take us.
She can give you the key.
I know. I had this conversation with Eric yesterday, and he said, most of the time when we're dealing with somebody and we go through training, it's the person in charge of facilities.
Right. Well,
on a college campus.
Don't feel badly about this. It turns out that the town of Madison doesn't have anybody either. And so Billy and I are trying to figure out what to do, because we have some really substantial changes to be made at Brown and Polson, especially Polson, and nobody to do it. And it's not something I can't shoulder, all the town buildings. It would be a monumental task. I can guide and help, but that's about it. So we should probably start thinking about what you want to do. It could be that you allocate some budget to have Automated Logic review the system every 6 months, get input from the staff about necessary changes. This room feels humid. This room gets too cold. This room gets too hot. There's going to be all kinds of things. The system controls every aspect of heating and air conditioning and lighting and everything. So, we should just talk about it.
Okay. I can assure you that librarians are lifelong learners. That's all I can
Good
tell.
thing.
Okay, well, after they're up to snuff, can they help me at Polson?
Don't hold your breath.
No, but teachers are the heroes these days, right? So.
Yes.
So moving on to other reports, which I guess would cover the Mark, if you want to talk about the pavement, or I don't know if Chip, you want to talk about discuss that now or think later?
Well, I know that, Mark, in your initial analysis, you had some questions and we're looking for some clarification on a couple of items. I've got Scott working on that. He hasn't gotten back to me yet, verifying square footage, verifying the specs that in the design documents, those kinds of things that you were making assumptions on. And I also think we need to get information and opinion from Rob, from Waldo, just to, because ultimately it's his pavement. We can talk about it now, but I don't know that we should be making any specific recommendations until we finalize those things, which, since we've got a meeting in a week and a half, I think we should target that.
Yeah, I would agree. We need to finalize some of those numbers. Has Enterprise been put on notice, Chip? Do they?
They're aware that, that there's, that everybody's concerned. They know that. They know what some of the thoughts are as far as, the potential to, mill and repave, the potential to look for a credit in lieu of that. That they've been given the same readings from IMTL that show, that many of the cores do not meet specifications, expectations. But they, I have not given them your analysis yet until we clean it up with the, make sure we don't have the assumptions, because I don't want to go in one direction and then be like, oh, wait, that assumption was wrong. Let's, circle back again. So I want to spend the next, week cleaning all of that up so that a week from Monday, we can come up with a firm recommendation as a board that I can take to them.
Yeah, and we could argue this 9 ways to Sunday. I mean, it appears as though there's lots of deficiencies out there. There are tolerances in the spec, because at one point somebody gave me the job spec for the library, and there's tolerances for depth. There's other tolerances that they're probably not meeting those either. It's not just the DOT spec that they failed to
Right.
meet. There's other things. So let's get all our facts straight and then
Exactly.
with one argument.
We do need to close this out, though. You know,
Yeah.
again, it's just putting things off. And I think we need to be careful not to be pushing costs over onto the library's operating budget in the future.
Yeah, just to speak from a treetop level here, the numbers for density and the durability of pavements is all about the compaction and the density that you achieve. So this is not the kind of pavement that you'd see in a roadway or a highway. There's only somewhere between 3 and 4 inches of pavement out there, which is not a lot. Granted, it's a parking lot, slow speed, but it is a lot of turning vehicles, and turning vehicles put stress on pavements, particularly pavements that are not compacted well. And it appears that that is a widespread issue out there. So durability and service life is going to be a concern, and it's something that we need to address.
Mhm.
So, Laura and Henry, question for you. So if we were able to get a credit for, X dollars versus having them, and then in theory that, you could put that money away, or you would not spend it now. And then in 10 years, you had to replace the pavement and spend that money, a certain amount of money plus. I mean, you have a sense of whether you'd rather have the money now than spend it on something you want in the building and then deal with that pavement issue, theoretical pavement issue 10 years from now?
I'd need a little more time to think about it, but my first instinct is to do things right the first time.
Well, I thought that any surplus goes towards the grant first before it goes to anybody else. So there would need to be some way of securing that money
I think he's, yeah.
in order to be able to hold it till then.
Yeah. I guess a good question, are we going to have contingency left over at the end?
We want to try to land on the exact dollar.
Right.
Yeah, and as far as applying to the for the final 10% of the state grant, we've already applied for the second portion of it, and heard some back and forth things, and I don't even I don't know where that stands right now with the state. We still don't have a state librarian, and they're putting out somebody that they offered a job to withdrew from the process, I guess, right before the offer was made. So anyway, they're kind of doing double and triple duty at the state library level. But we can apply. I will go ahead and apply for the final 10% payment as soon as we get a CO and as soon as we reach a final payment to Enterprise. So we don't have to spend the entire 15 million. We just have to finish the construction phase of it. So once we get a paid stamp from Enterprise, then we'll go ahead and apply for that final. So I would imagine there's a way to set that aside in reserves, but it's going to depend, I assume, on the totals.
I would also look at the current political climate and worry about any clawbacks. Legislators getting together in 2 years are going to say, hey, these people didn't spend all their money. We want it. Spend it.
Well, we'll probably spend it on the sidewalk.
Well, that's right.
So yeah, maybe that situation when we get those
We
bids.
can extend the monumental stairs all the way down to the water. So my instinct too is do everything you can right the first time and just out of the next thing. Because who knows who's going to be in control. And I can tell you that every legislator is going to be looking around every corner for money that's not claimed, and if you haven't spent it, if you spend it, they can't take it back.
Right.
My theory.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're.
Nicole's
continuing
not.
work.
Yeah, I think it's best. I agree. Let's do it now.
We're so close.
Well, the building does look great. Chip, you said you had a slideshow for us?
I do,
That-
I do.
All right.
The only other issue I had kind of as another report, we touched on it just now, and that is training. And, you know, they need to, as part of the closeout and commissioning, they're going to be providing training on not only the building management system, but, you know, the lighting controls and the door hardware and how to adjust the openers and, you know, just every really major component that needs to, that gets a, you know, operation manual. They will provide training. Now they can film those and just give us video, or is there, you know, somebody from the library that we need to be targeting, whether it's the library's main electrician to come look at the lighting controls, whether it's, you know, the whoever is going to have the service contract for the HVAC work, to include them. Maybe you're not, because the first year basically everything's under warranty pretty much anyway, so maybe you're not going to have that. But that's something that, you know, that we need to figure out sooner than later, is how we want to handle training on all of those kinds of items, beyond just the building management controls.
Okay. We'll work on that.
Okay.
Do you want to give me a list?
Yeah, we can
or
put
is
that
that it?
together.
Yeah, I mean, lighting, HVAC.
Yeah, that wasn't a comprehensive, that was just kind of off the top of my head.
Okay, yeah, if you give me a list, because, yeah, we'll have internal and then perhaps external people, so we can arrange that. Or at least try to make progress with it.
Okay. And again, we'll get, you know, little videos of the training as well. So that can be, you know, stored on the network for future use.
Yep, great.
All right. So I took a bunch of pictures the other day, interior and exterior, though I'm skipping the exterior pictures because it's dramatically changed since then. So anybody driving by sees all the landscaping now that was not in my pictures. So I thought that, you know, since we haven't had a walkthrough recently, and now that the flooring's in and a lot of the furniture, that you guys would like to just take a quick walk around with some pictures that I took.
Sounds good.
Yes.
All right. So this is looking down the hallway towards the new entrance. You see the new ceramic tile from Italy is here, and it's in. Whoops, I was looking to hit this button and zoom in a little bit. See that tile? Got these banding. You can see the shelving over there, and the help desk without a countertop. The adult area here, you see the shelving in, you can see the stair in the background. Start to see the colors all coming, lighting all coming together. The stair C, the main stair inside, the tile on it. Glass, the railings, the glass guardrails. Looking up towards the atrium through there as you're walking up.
Beautiful.
Very good.
From the landing, looking down as you're coming down the stair, you kind of see that view. Here's the main circulation desk in progress. Again, you just kind of get a feel for the whole area. And the help desk, the self-checkout areas. This is the wall where hopefully the prints are.
Someday, yeah.
Someday my prince will come.
Yeah. Moving into the children's area. Here's the children's reception desk without a countertop.
Gorgeous.
So
Well,
to see that with the blue popping, these kind of wavy light fixtures everywhere, the low shelving. This is the community room, the blue chairs that Ron mentioned, and tables. So right now this is set up kind of, table and chair style, but obviously the furniture is flexible
Yeah,
to
those
go
tables all flip.
cool.
put for storage in this closet here.
And they roll, right? Looks like they roll.
Yep. Oh, it's neat. They actually these tables don't have it. I don't have a picture of the children's community room, project room that the furniture, the wheels are only on one side, which makes it really easy. Just you lift the other side and roll the table right along. It looks really nice for anybody to be able to reconfigure that room based on that furniture.
And they
Like-
stack too, right, Ron? The children's furniture.
You're muted,
stack.
Ron, if you're talking.
Yes, they do stack, and it's called a wheelbarrow base. And we use them a lot in schools and classrooms, so that the kids don't go racing down the halls with them.
But still easy enough to move for a staff
Yeah.
member who needs to reconfigure.
Exactly.
This is the lifelong learning room,
Great.
cafe,
Hmm,
got the combination low tables and high tables.
a winner.
No social distancing there.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Here's it's the periodical or the reading room.
That's the Henry Bacon
Henry
room.
Bacon, you can really see the floor, how nicely that came out
Exquisite.
with the,
Beautiful, yeah.
everything, we don't have that mauve color anymore. Mauve and light blue.
Hard to forget.
Now we're upstairs looking down through the atrium. All of this is being repaired as we speak.
Great.
So that's all gonna look new.
Great feature.
You can,
Sorry.
you can see the single tables on the right-hand side. So we were thinking of social distancing without knowing. Those are all single table chairs right there.
Yeah, I think I got another view of that. Here's kind of looking across down to the adult area. It's kind of just nice views.
Really.
Here's where you're talking about with these single tables along the way, just to sit and read and study.
They're light enough though, if you wanted to push two together and work with somebody, then it
Or
works
flip a
too.
chair around or
Yep.
furniture's not here yet, but this is the garden view.
There's the garden on the truck.
That's right.
We wanted a rooftop, but we got
Yeah.
a truck bed instead.
Here's looking down this area. This is the maker space. So you can see how open, glassy this is. Moving into the teen area. These are the
at
chairs
those.
kind of in front of the gaming monitor.
Looks like the 70s again.
Single swivel, really kind of get in there comfortably. And that's it. Actually, I had this one here because this is the picture I was going to share with the stairs, but I had it at the end. So that's just quick walkthrough with pictures.
Nice.
Great.
Very
you.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Well
Thank
done. Well done.
One of the things that you showed was an area that's a question, and that's, have we gotten any update on the Pixel panel?
Not yet, and that's on me. I just haven't had time to follow up. But I will be following up.
Are they still messing with you on, you have to do our procedure?
Yes, but that's not what's holding it up.
Okay, all right.
Chip, how large is that? Can you send it to us?
It's just the pictures. So I mean, I
Yeah.
could send individual. It's not in power. It's just the individual pictures. So they're
That's fine.
however big they are. They're probably
Pretty big.
pretty big.
Yeah,
They're 2.5 to 3 meg each.
Okay.
go see it. It's much better.
Yeah, but we want to share it with people who can't go in yet.
That's right. Do you,
Send them to the
I-
virtual tour or
It's
send
on
them
the
to
site.
send them
Yeah.
to the party site that Nicole sent you.
Okay,
oh,
Yeah, get them on the library website.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
we
put
can,
them on the
I'm sure there's a
library
shared drive
website.
somewhere. There's a shared drive somewhere that I can send out or put them, drop them on.
We can also put some on the Great Give website or site too, Henry.
Love it. Love it. I mean, it's at the point now where you can imagine yourself in there. As
oh
opposed
yeah, it's
to,
just.
"Oh, I
it's
see it
transparent.
in mind," but there it is,
Mhm.
except for the books and the people.
What's
We
the deal with the
are
books?
we're getting close to knowing when the books are coming. The people is going to be the big question.
Yeah, right now the books are being held hostage in Massachusetts, so.
Are we gonna pay for storage if they can't release them? How does that work?
Well, we're gonna talk about that.
That's a good question. I was asking that last week. I'm like, who's paying for it if
Yeah,
that's
we're ready to
delayed?
hear-
$507 a
We're ready
month.
to- Yeah, I was gonna look at that contract that we have with them and see what the clauses are in about pandemics and that sort of thing.
Force majeure.
There's probably
Yeah.
no pandemic clause.
No,
We're gonna have to add that to all future contracts.
Yeah. That's a problem in the insurance world with business
I
interruptions.
noticed on
Yeah.
the town's notifications about meetings that we have the meeting scheduled for a couple weeks or a week and a half. And then we have the early May meeting, but we have no late May meeting scheduled. So the 26th, when we normally meet, is Memorial Day.
Oh,
So
so we do need to reschedule that one
Yeah.
then. Should probably do that now.
yeah,
Tuesday following Memorial Day.
Sure.
I think I remember this discussion. We'll make sure it works.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Lauren and remind her, if she's not still on, about setting that on the agenda for an
So
official
that's,
meeting.
so that'd be the 26th is the official meeting?
I think the 27th is the Tuesday,
Tuesday is the 26th,
the 26th. Yeah.
26th, yeah.
Yeah, no, it'd be the 26th.
Yeah. I think we scheduled it for them. It's possible that there was a second page to that notification.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, because we went out 6 months. I remember we had the discussion, how far out should we go?
Yeah, and the last meeting that they showed was on the 26th, and well, maybe not, I don't know.
It'll work. We'll make it work.
Okay.
Sure. Between Graham and me, we'll do a pincer movement.
Absolutely.
Thank you for putting that together, Chip. It really is inspiring, I think.
Yeah.
Project for 9 years.
It was nice to, as I hadn't been able to go in for some time, to get there, and it was impressive to see the difference and how the furniture is coming together and the flooring and everything else that hadn't been there the last time I was able to go.
And just while we all have you, how you feeling? How did it?
Good. I'm 100% clear.
Yeah, but what was the worst? Did you hit high fever? Or?
No, it was the breathing.
Yeah.
It was, I would be, panting during this meeting at the worst, just not even really able to have a conversation without stopping to catch my breath, and the headache and the breathing. Those were the two biggest problems for me.
Okay. Well, we're glad you're up and about.
Yeah, we sure
Yeah,
are.
glad you're well.
Yeah, Sunday was my official clear day after 3 days of no symptoms. Ended Saturday.
Good. Very good. And Ron, are those tobacco sheds behind you?
Yes, actually they are. And this is a photograph I took maybe about a year ago here in Windsor.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a friend with a professional photographer, and she got permission to photograph them and invited me to go along. So this is a picture I took, and about a month after this was taken, they tore down all of the tobacco sheds.
I know.
I saw that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was sad, sad, sad day.
I thought it was your next project.
Well, there's a slight family connection to my mother's family. They insured the tobacco farmers who grow
Really?
cigar leaves. So I have a rather large collection of cigar bands, but pretty specialized field, but it was a big deal at one time. It's still pretty big.
Oh, yeah. Connecticut shade-grown tobacco was used as a wrapper all over the world.
Mhm.
The best in its day.
Yeah.
Yeah, in its day. So, well, that was a hell of a meeting, Mr. Chairman.
That was a record. 8:07.
Marathon. If there's nothing else, are we feeling ready to adjourn?
I think so.
They
I
need
Take a vote.
they-
All in favor? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
See you
Okay,
in 2 weeks.
take care.
Everybody stay healthy.
Eat your Wheaties.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Care.
good night
Bye,
all.
guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, Chris.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, public.
Ignore what I said.
Yeah, exactly. I
Night,
think this is
guys.
recorded. It's recorded.